Okay, brother. So I'm gonna say the Shahada and you repeat after me. We're gonna say it in Arabic, then in English. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasul Allah. Allah Akbar. Yeah!
سائلي عن مذهبي.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. This is Sadiq and Mustafa. We got some exciting news for you. We'll be starting a new podcast called Deen City, where we interview reverts over the past years of us doing dawah. How long have you been doing dawah for, Mustafa?
A couple years, like maybe 6, 7.
6-7 years, and we've seen hundreds and hundreds of reverts. So everyone out there, if you want to be interviewed, let us know. And yeah, we'll get to it.
عقيدتي رزق الهدى من للهداية يسأل اسمع كلام محقق في قوله لا ينثني عنه ولا يتبدل حب الصحابة كلهم لي مذهب ومودة القربى بها أتوسل ولكلهم قدر على وفضائل لكنما الصديق من
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abudu. This is Sadiq. This is Ustad Mustafa. And this is Brother Ade. And they made me do this.
He volunteered. He forgot our names. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, go ahead. So, right side first, right?
Yes. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Deen City. This is our brother Ade. He's going to be joining us. Let's get started.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. How are you doing, Sheikh?
I'm good, alhamdulillah.
Mashallah. How you doing? How's your day going today?
Fine. I've met these young brothers and whatnot, and that completes my day.
Alhamdulillah. He claimed we were forcing him, right?
He was more voluntold.
Mashallah. Alhamdulillah. So tell us about yourself, mashallah. A little bit about your background.
Well, I was, of all places, born in South Bend, Indiana, and my family is originally from North Carolina, and I was raised in upstate New York.
Mashallah.
I can hear it in the voice.
Yeah.
Okay. I moved to New York City proper, when I was 25 years old. So I've been in here in the city over 50 years.
Mashallah. Allah Akbar.
I was 19 years old, 20 years old. I was a member of the Nation of Islam.
Wow.
And I studied with them for a while. And then I drifted away, I was active in sports and whatnot. I worked for the New York State, well, you wanted my college background, right? I have a degree in sociology from the College of New Rochelle.
Mashallah.
And I worked for the state of New York in juvenile justice for 30 years, working with teenage boys.
Mashallah.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of trouble, huh?
Yeah, I would say so. But I like working with young men.
Mashallah. Mashallah.
So you mentioned you were part of the Nation of Islam. What got you started what triggered you to get started to look into that?
There was an older brother that where I lived in upstate New York. It's a town called Beacon, New York. And he was a member of the Nation of Islam, and he asked me to travel to Brooklyn. And Minister Farrakhan was speaking. At that time, I didn't know who Minister Farrakhan was.
Right.
And upon hearing him, I was impressed, and I became a member of the Nation of Islam. They had a business making beef sausages, and I was fortunate to get a job with them making sausages, beef sausages. I must emphasize that. Yes.
It's like beef. Yeah. So it was halal.
It was halal.
Mashallah. Wow, okay. So that was when you was young as well?
I was 20 years old.
I was 20 years old. Mashallah. Fabulous memory. You remember that?
Huh?
I said you have a fabulous memory.
Everybody tells me that. That's one of my,
Mashallah.
Thanks be to Allah, that's one of the gifts that I've been blessed with.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So before that, you spent all of your life over there when you guys moved from?
I lived a few years in North Carolina where my family was originally from. Then from there, they moved to upstate New York. Okay. And then after I became in my 20s, I was always excited about New York City, so I moved to New York. And that's when I became a member of the Nation of Islam.
Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. How was it?
Well, you know, I have one sister, and then, like I said, Beacon was a small town on the Hudson River, you know, close to Newburgh. I don't know if people are familiar with Newburgh, New York, but anyway, Beacon's right across the river. There's a bridge connecting the two cities.
Interesting.
Did all my
High school.
and went to college in Poughkeepsie.
Mashallah.
And then I came to New York, and I didn't finish when I was in Poughkeepsie. I came to New York and took courses at Brooklyn College, Medgar Evers.
Mashallah.
And then finally I finished up and got my degree at Medgar Evers.
Mashallah.
Not Medgar Evers, but College in New Rochelle.
Mashallah.
So I was involved, I studied with the Yoruba religion, you know. With the
Nigeria?
That's from Nigeria, exactly, you know. That's what in Puerto Rico and Cuba they call Santeria.
Oh, okay.
Same, it's one and the same. It's from the Yoruba religion.
Yeah. Can you explain that religion a little bit?
Well, it deals with deities, you know, and there's major deities. Obatala, who's supposedly creator, he wears all white. Okay, he represents peace. And there's the god Shango. In Trinidad, I know that there's a Shango Baptist church that's very popular in Trinidad.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Shango.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
He doesn't know.
But the Yoruba religion outside of Cuba is actually practiced in Brazil, a section of Brazil called Bahia, Salvador Bahia. And that's where a lot of the Yoruba slaves were taken by the Portuguese. So outside of Nigeria, Brazil has the largest amount of slaves. You know,
Wow, really?
There were a total of 5 million slaves brought from Africa to Brazil.
Wow.
As compared to only 300,000 over the years during the Atlantic slave trade from the United States. Yeah. So Brazil had the largest slaves.
Interesting.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
That's
know that.
new to me too.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all. In fact, I didn't know half of the things he said right now. All these religions.
But anyway, the Yoruba religion involved, you know, sacrifice and, you know, various other things that I became somewhat disenchanted with, you know, which led me to embracing Sunni Islam, you know. And I took my Shahada in Brooklyn in Masjid Taqwa under Imam Siraj.
Interesting. So you went from the Nation of Islam to the Yoruba religion?
Yes, yes, sir.
Sunni Islam.
Yes, sir. I mean.
Actually, let's just clarify something. You mentioned the Nation of Islam. For anyone out there who doesn't know what the Nation of Islam is, can you explain that a little bit?
Well, that was an organization started by Elijah Muhammad.
MashaAllah, okay. So basically, because I want to understand something. So did you have any exposure to Islam, Muslims?
No, no, not at all. I was actually raised as an Episcopalian.
Who?
Episcopalian, what they call the Church of England, Anglican Church.
Oh, the Anglican Church, okay.
I was an altar boy and the whole nine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was in the front line.
Yeah.
In the masjid too, he's always in the front row.
So we asked you already about the Nation of Islam, but now what got you into Sunni Islam? Like, did someone introduce it to you?
Yeah, well, I was, you know, on my job, there were a number of brothers who were actually Sunni Muslims. And they kept encouraging me, well, you need to come on board and whatnot. And finally, one day it just hit me. I said, you know what? I want to take that step. You know, at that time I had done a little bit of research. You know? I had gone to the library and, you know, read different books on Islam and whatnot. So,
what stood out to you about it?
It's difficult to say because so much, really, so much. You know,
mention a few.
I can't. Well, the fact that you know, the dietary, you know, principles, for instance, you know, prohibit. Well, already as being a member of the Nation of Islam, I abstained from eating pork. Right. So, and the reason. They didn't really explain it in detail like it did when I studied when I began to study the Sunni. You know, the reasons why, you know, the pork is prohibited. You know, swine rather. You know, as it's referred to it also.
Right. So the health part, basically, staying away from all of these things that harm your health.
Yes.
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to Ibrahim's story too. Someone mentioned that as well.
Yeah.
Because it was all about the health.
Yeah, all about the
don't
health.
put anything in the body that harms them.
Right.
Exactly. That's what he said. Yeah.
Now, I don't want to give the impression that I was a a saint, you know what I mean? Because I did my, you know, in the 20s, and I was a product of the 60s. So I did
He
my,
was an altar boy, so
yeah, well, but still, I mean, that was when I was a young, you know, teenager. But after college and whatnot, you know, I indulge in what they would refer to as you know, the love era.
the
you know?
societal norms.
Yeah, exactly.
You like
Exactly. Well
everybody
put.
else.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So what was different when you became Sunni Muslim? What was one of the big differences between that and the Nation of Islam to you?
Well, the concentration on the teachings from the Quran, okay, where you know, in the Nation of Islam, the minister at that time, because they weren't referred to as imams, they were referred to as ministers.
Okay.
And they would perhaps maybe give a excerpt or maybe a ayat from the Quran, and maybe not really expound on it, but they would, you know, give some background on it. You know what I mean? But basically, the foundation of the Nation of Islam is what we refer to as a khutbah from the minister. You know, they would give a lecture and whatnot. It was basically everyday principles of teachings. You know what I mean?
Was it also done on a Friday, like how we do?
No, it just did. It was Sunday was the primary day, similar to in the Christian church, the Sunday. You know,
Gotcha.
and that was I think that was a strategic plan on the part of Elijah Muhammad to keep in unison that Sunday as being the day of worship. Since many of his original believers, followers were from the South. And they were all like either Baptists or, you know, Christians.
Right.
So that was something that was familiar with him. That's why I felt his foundation was effective, because it wasn't extreme. The people could follow because it's something they could relate to. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
You know, and I feel I give him credit because I felt that whereas we in Islam, you know, Sunni, wear thobes and whatnot, at that time in 1930 when he, you know, began his organization, people were not ready for thobes. The women covered their heads, which even in the Pentecostal Christian aspect of religion, the women cover their heads. So that's in keeping with the old tradition, with the Old Testament. You know what I mean?
Even if you go back and you look like and you look at the previous queens of England, they had hijabs.
Yes.
They had hijabs.
Yes.
We saw a video,
Right.
1904, 1905, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and the women, not just the leaders, the queens,
Right.
and
Right.
like the women in the streets, they were all covered from head to toe, literally, if you saw them.
And the Pentecostal religion here is looked upon as kind of extreme because the women don't wear makeup, they have their heads covered, and they don't wear pants, which is very closely, you know, connected with, you know, the ancient teachings of Musa and Islam.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
It's something, it's amazing. Like, you remember I was mentioning that to you, that, you know, when you are with people and you want to lead them to a certain place, you have to, as long as they abide by the basic tenets, there are certain things that you can work with and just sort of let it go and not push too hard. Like I was mentioning the story to him about the Prophet ﷺ and the shape of the Kaaba. You know, the shape of the Kaaba wasn't as it used to be before. That the idol worshippers, they basically, you know, because they're used to whatever idol worshipping and whatever, and they're used to the shape of the Kaaba. The Prophet ﷺ, one day he just, after a lot of the people were becoming Muslim, he looked at his wife, our mother Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. I mean, he told her, by the way, do you know the shape of the Kaaba is actually not the original shape? And she's like, what? He's like, yeah. And she's like, why don't you change it? He's like, no. The people are already used to this, and they're new to Islam, so just leave it as it is, you know. And he left it as it. And later on, the governors and the generals and the leaders changed it, and he changed back, you know. And subhanAllah,
I don't want to give the impression that I'm promoting or supporting the Nation of Islam.
Right. We don't.
The Nation of Islam is not true Islam and was a religion created by Elijah Muhammad, copying some aspects of Islam and made himself a prophet. He tricked the people to make them think he is the Prophet Muhammad that was sent by Allah. The true Islam is Sunni Islam, and the true Prophet is Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he is the final Prophet who died 1400 years ago. There will come no prophet or messenger after him, as Allah said in the Quran.
Alhamdulillah. Societal reforms comes in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we even had the Black Wall Street, right? Before it was
Yeah, that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how Islam changed your life. For the better, or for the worse, hopefully for the better.
Well, definitely for the better. Definitely for the better.
Yeah.
And in terms of balance, because even though it's an integral part of Islam, Islam being the middle path, I hear very few people, expound on that. But that balance is something that's key. Balance. And that's key in everyone's life on all levels. So in that way, I've gained a lot of I would say structure. And Ramadan is something that really I find one grasp. If you follow Ramadan and really perform it, you get a lot of benefits from it. Discipline. And I would say discipline is one of the key things that I've been able to obtain from Islam.
Allah. Okay. Wow. So you said the structure and then discipline.
Discipline. Yes.
Discipline is so important in Islam.
Yes.
I remember I was mentioning to the kids about Imam Malik and Imam Shafi. Imam Malik, his mother used to tell him, go and learn the discipline, the manners of the scholars before the knowledge. Imam Shafi, the same thing. His mother, actually, one day he went back to his mother and his mother asked him, what did you learn?
Right.
He said, I learned knowledge and manners. She didn't let him in. She basically locked him out of the house.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he said knowledge and manners. When he went back to Imam Malik, he said, my mother is mad with me. She locked me out of the house. She didn't let me in. Imam Malik said, why? He said, when she asked me, what did you learn? He said, I told her I learned knowledge and manners. Imam Malik remembered his own mother. Allah Akbar.
Right.
He told him, go back and tell her, I learned manners and knowledge.
When he
went back, he knocked the door, his mom opened the door, what did you learn? He said, manners and knowledge. She opened the door and hugged him.
Alhamdulillah.
Allah Akbar.
Yeah, people tend to forget that the Prophet, peace be upon him, he came to perfect our manners.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he said in the hadith.
Yeah. Authentic hadith. So,
Right.
MashaAllah.
That's good. Like the manners, it's like we always mention all the time. We're going to continue to mention it. Manners is what attracts people more to Islam too. Nowadays people, they don't have it. And even everyone's manners is going to be different, but Islam gives a universal common manners that resonates with everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone, no matter which part of society you're in, what part of the world, it resonates with them.
Now, the fact that I'm the only Muslim in the family, a lot of my family members are Christians.
You're the only Muslim?
Only Muslim,
wow.
yes.
Wow.
Now, the teachings and what the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, has told us about the one cherishing their mother above all things after Allah, and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that was something that, since embracing Islam, that I realized the importance of.
Wow.
Okay,
wow.
And that's a principle that I share with Muslims. I mean, I emphasize that. Well, most Muslims know that, but even non-Muslims, I emphasize the importance of worshiping your mother. All right, the Prophet really stresses that. All right,
taking care of them.
Yes, and I in turn have learned. My mother, Allah has called my mother. She's deceased, but I understand that I try to impart this upon a lot of young men. Whatever you do, worship your mother above everything.
Right.
Regardless of what she's done, you're obligated to worship her.
Yeah, exactly.
Cherish her.
And when he says
not worship, cherish.
When he says worship, it means not in the way that we worship Allah or worship, our Creator. He means in the fact that you respect, you love, you cherish, and you obey.
And take
care of her. So that's what he means. Just to be clear. Because we don't want to confuse anyone out there, even though what he says is correct. Worship is, that part is correct. It's just we want to clarify there are two different types.
And on that note, we need to distinguish, where the Catholics worship Miriam, Miriam, Esau, Ibn Maryam, all right? And the Catholics, and unfortunately they're misguided on this principle, they worship her as the mother of, where they say the mother of God. Okay, but anyway,
Well, they worship a lot of other things too. There are parts of them that worship the Virgin of Guadalupe.
Yeah.
yes,
There's a lot of different saints that worship. You know, so unfortunately, we all die dumb.
yes,
We gotta
true.
hold us, you know?
I mean,
Subhanallah. And amazing how, so that part affected you, how Islam emphasizes the Muslim to take care of his mother and his
Yes.
parents.
And
Yeah.
have discipline.
And have discipline.
Yes.
Subhanallah. And many places in the Quran, you know, Allah
Yeah.
mentions like, it's
Because-
funny how he used worship.
Yes.
Because in the ayat, many of the places when Allah, he says, worship him, then he says, be excellent to your parents. In many places, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. That's called, they say Allah, he combined worshiping him, and
Yeah.
after that, he immediately
Yeah.
says, be excellent to your parents.
and the reason I emphasize that because in all honesty, there was a period of time in my life that I wasn't, you know, how can I say, necessarily obedient to my parents. Okay, you know, I was rebellious. Okay, so as I've gotten older, I understand the importance of, you know, cherishing your parents. You know,
Subhanallah.
and Islam emphasizes that more than any other religion.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I hold it in high esteem. You know, and,
MashaAllah. You mentioned something else that touched you about the Quran. Was that because of Ramadan, the recitations, or?
well, in other words, there's like, you know how they say black seed oil is good for everything but death?
Yes.
Well, the Quran
No, the
has,
Prophet-
the Quran has a passage, ayat, if you will, surah, you know, that applies to everything that you'll be faced in life.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything is included in the Holy Book, the Kitab.
Yeah. Allah Akbar. Ibn Taymiyyah reminds me when he was about to die, he died on this ayah. Innal muttaqina fi jannatin. He said he wished that he spent his entire life just on the Quran because he wrote so many books. Ibn Taymiyyah was just writing books, right? And so many books he wrote. The Tatars, when they took, you know, when they caused the Mongolians, they caused so much harm to the Muslims during those times. When they took over some of the lands of the Muslims, they took off the books and they threw them in the sea. The books were so many that the ink from the books changed the color of the sea. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing. Subhanallah.
But and as well as it's well noted that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. Okay, and I'm impressed that a lot of young people in this country have embraced Islam. You know, and you would think because of this the discipline that it would maybe kind of like maybe deter them or maybe scare them away, but yet and still they're embracing it. Mashallah, alhamdulillah.
You know what it is? It's like, because Islam builds a structure. For example, if you take like a flat piece of, let's take a plate, and you put like a structure under it, right? Like it's going to wiggle back and forth.
Yes.
It's going to wiggle back and forth. So in their life, it's going to be unbalanced. Always going to hit turbulence. But if you build a nice structure under it, it's not going to
It's just gonna hold firm.
hold firm. And that's what Islam does for people.
Allah Akbar.
You know?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Beautiful example.
Yeah.
So you were amazed at how many people are accepting Islam.
Well, I'm not amazed. I'm just I'm pleased. You know, I rejoice. Alhamdulillah, I rejoice over it. You know.
Because amazed, I guess, I was like, amazed means that, oh, you're surprised by it. But he's not surprised by it.
No.
Because he already knows how beautiful Islam is.
No.
Just, he wants everyone else to see it. And if they do, he knows they always
MashaAllah. Inshallah, one day he's gonna join us for dawah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. So tell us, because you mentioned a couple of things, the structure, the discipline, how Islam orders Muslims and encourages them and commands them to be good to their parents.
Yes.
And what else? What else is there that?
In other words, this thing about the wife, the zoj, a man's wife, how. You know, and I guess a lot of American people in the West, you know, probably would balk at this, but you know, how a Muslim woman doesn't have to work if she chooses not to. Okay, and in this society, for some reason, seems to feel that, well, if there's a couple and the woman, unless the man is rich, the woman needs to work, right? But in Islam, the woman has the choice; she doesn't have to work.
And even if she does, the money's offered.
Right.
Money's hers.
Right, exactly. And the next thing, this thing about, you know, unfortunately in the Western world, and particularly in America, there's a high rate of divorce. Okay?
Yeah.
And I was surprised in studying the Sunnah and whatnot that a woman, because most people feel that a lot of people have the impression that when a Muslim man or a woman maybe their marriage separates, it's the man that initiates it. But a woman has the right. The woman can initiate the divorce,
Of course, yeah.
if she had,
If the conditions come about. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not aware of that because a lot of people are on the
They think
impression.
Muslim women are oppressed.
Yes, that word is key.
Yeah.
A lot of people really have a misconception about what actually Islamic marriage is.
Yeah. And subhanAllah, it's funny how almost every person we interview makes this point about how women are taken care of in Islam. Yeah, like you would be amazed if you see all the videos. Almost everybody talks about it. Like we are amazed that Islam takes care of women, and it's like they didn't expect it before coming to Islam. Right, exactly. Even in the Islamic contract, they're allowed to put stipulations in it. Yeah. Like I heard there was a couple that the wife wrote she wants a rose every Friday or every Wednesday. I can't remember. For the rest of her life. What? She wants a rose brought to her. Wow. So her husband now I can't remember if it's a Wednesday or Friday. Wow. One of those days he has to bring her a rose every single day. I mean every single of that
Wednesday.
Right.
Friday.
Yeah. Wow. So you as a woman you have that ability in Islam to do it, and the man has to abide by it, of course, because he fears Allah.
Yes.
Other places after a couple weeks, okay, the love is gone.
After the honeymoon.
But we're already married, so.
Yeah. And the thing about multiple wives is an issue that a lot of non-Muslims really have, total misconception about. Okay, they think that all Muslim men have 3 and 4 wives, and I have to explain to them that it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Only if a man if he can. Take care of these women. Okay, and this is the principle that a lot of people forget.
If you cannot be just, Allah says,
if he prefers you to have one.
If you fear being not unjust, if you fear injustice on your part, then you better take only one wife.
Right.
Because the woman has a right. She has a right. The woman has a right. So if you take 2 women, you have to give all of their rights to them.
That's right.
And how many men can do that? One man can barely handle one wife.
That's right.
You better handle one wife. And give him 2. Yeah.
That's the truth of the bottom line. That that it's enough for a man to take care of one.
Right. And it's a beautiful thing to have more than one wife, because you know what, Islam is all about the community and building the family.
Right.
So I always say this way when people ask me, imagine now you have one guy and he wants to marry multiple wives of different races. Right. It breaks racism in a way as well.
Of
course. Because now we have, say like he wants to marry one Latina, one African American, one Asian, and so forth. Now that family has no reason, but okay, no, we have
my brother's Asian.
There's like we have these people that family. We can't look down upon them or anything like that. Like you said, if the father has wives from every race, all those children cannot be racist. Because why? They were like, oh, my half brother, my half sister, and they're these guys from here and that guys from there. And subhanAllah, not only that, because you see in the world, by the way, the population, there are more women than men. In every country you go, you find that there are many. The last time we saw the statistics, like 4 women for 1 man, something like that. And you see how the hypocrisy of the people, because even here in the American society, most men or a lot of men, they sleep with a lot of women. They have baby mamas here. So wait, you prefer the guy to have 7 different kids from 7 different women, and he doesn't marry anyone, he doesn't take care of them, and he walks away?
That principle is one of the main principles that kind of like separate the family, the foundation of the family, and we suffer from it as a result.
SubhanAllah.
A little thing in terms of dealing with hygiene. This thing about washing after using the the toilet, whatnot. What we call a stinger. Okay. A lot of people are unaware of the fact that the whole thing about in Europe, the bidet, where women clean themselves with that little fountain that comes out of the toilet. That was originated by the Muslims. Muslims started that. And a lot of people surprised to understand when they find that out. They find it hard to believe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. There was this famous guy asked about what he loved when he went to the Middle East. He said they had this pipe that you could use to clean yourself.
So I'm actually very glad you brought that up. There was this, I think 2 weeks ago there was this streamer, this Twitch streamer on YouTube and Twitch. He said, he started ranting about Islam and how backwards it is, how it's uncivilized and everything. Mind you, there's this guy, he's streaming in a room filled with a bunch of garbage, and he has a roach flying in his apartment, and he even points it out. And then one of our brothers, he actually put out a video refuting him. He says, brother, when was the last time you even wiped your butt? Wash your butt. You're talking about us being uncivilized. We clean ourselves. We this and that. But look at you in that filthy room. And I'm not going to mention the guy. Right. I don't want to give him any more attention than he deserves. But this guy is, whenever you're watching it, people know what I'm talking about. Right. He's again has a roach flying in his room, has all these garbage, all these cans all over, and it's very simple, plain and simple. He doesn't even wash his own butt like we do. We clean ourselves, we keep ourselves clean, but he doesn't. We wash ourselves 5 times a day. Yeah, during COVID, you didn't have to tell Muslims to wash our hands. No. We've been washing our hands 5 times a day, even more. The cleaning, even the way doctors when they go and they make before operations, they wash up as well. We mentioned this in another video and everything like that.
One key point that I want to point out, when a few years ago when there was an AIDS epidemic across the world, and they did a survey, and the Muslim countries in Africa had the lowest, percentage of AIDS throughout Africa, and that's because indiscriminate sex in Muslim countries is frowned upon. Okay, you have to be married. So as a result of that, that cut down on this because promiscuity is not allowed in Muslim countries. As a result, when that AIDS really was rampant throughout Africa and other parts of the world, the Muslim countries had the lowest percentage of AIDS. Which says,
Islam gives you the cure for anything and the prevention. Like you mentioned, we just need that discipline and to keep that structure. Alhamdulillah, we're good.
We follow the structure with discipline.
Yes, sir.
All we gotta do is stick to the
done deal. You stick to the structure with discipline, and it's a done deal.
And we also stick to the Quran and Sunnah.
The Quran and Sunnah.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for joining us today. I think it's time for us to go pray. We have to go catch Isha. What's that, Maghrib? So this is how we stick to the Quran and Sunnah. We're gonna go out there and pray. We're gonna go out there and pray. We're gonna pray Isha. We're just letting you guys know. Even for our show, we stop to pray when it's time to pray. When the prayer comes in,
Alhamdulillah.
So if you're watching and you're a Muslim, don't watch it and Salah time passes by.
Go pray. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. By the way, you see my sweater? This is from the Clear Islam. They're the ones who support our dawah. They help us out. And I'm going to post a link in the description so you guys can donate if you guys want to. Help them out so we can continue doing our dawah that we do. Give out free Qurans anytime. Thank you very much. Don't forget to give a comment, like us, and subscribe. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. والصحابة كلهم لي مذهب ومودة القربى بها أتوسل ولكلهم قدر